Ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of India in 2025. And make no mistake, the world is watching. But more than watching, they're worried. Because for the first time in history, the West is not holding the remote. They're not calling the shots. They can't control India anymore. This is a new India, a digital superpower, a defense leader, a voice in global diplomacy, and a powerhouse of innovation and talent. For a long time, India was seen through the lens of dependency, a nation that followed, not led. Its policies were often influenced by Western economic models, foreign aid, and global narratives shaped outside its borders. The colonial past had left a lasting impact, not just on its institutions, but also on its confidence. Even after gaining independence in 1947, India spent decades trying to find its place in a world where the West dictated terms. Whether it was trade, defense purchases, technology, or international diplomacy, India was often expected to follow the lead of more powerful Western nations. The perception was that progress meant Westernization, and influence came only through alignment with the West. But that has changed dramatically. In 2025, India is no longer the passive participant in global affairs. It has stepped into a role of assertive independence. It has diversified its partnerships, strengthened its domestic industries, and begun to push back against one-sided narratives. It is no longer looking at the West as a guiding force. It is looking inward, building confidence from its own roots and values. India is forming independent alliances, whether with nations in the global South, the Middle East, or even through organizations like BRICS. It is trading in local currencies, building indigenous weapons systems, launching its own satellites, and creating a digital economy that rivals Silicon Valley in scale and speed. India has mastered the art of balancing relations with multiple global powers without being pulled into any one sphere of influence. This independence can also be seen in its foreign policy. India is not easily swayed by pressure anymore on global issues like climate change, trade regulations, or conflicts involving other superpowers. India takes a stand based on its own interests, not under the shadow of Western approval. It has made it clear on multiple platforms that it will do what is right for its people, its economy, and its future, even if that means going against the preferences of the West. The country is no longer intimidated by criticism or diplomatic arm twisting. It has the economic and strategic muscle now to walk its own path. What's driving this confidence is India's internal transformation. The rise of startups, rapid digitization, massive infrastructure projects, a young and skilled population, and bold national policies have made India a self-reliant force. It is building its own technology ecosystems, reducing import dependence, and promoting Make in India across every sector. No longer is India waiting for validation from global think tanks or foreign investors. It is attracting them on its own terms. The West has had to take a step back, not because it wants to, but because it has no choice. India is too powerful, too independent, and too strategic to be controlled. It has evolved from a developing nation seeking guidance to a global power commanding respect. India's transformation in 2025 is nothing short of extraordinary. The country has reached a momentum that is no longer dependent on external validation or support. It has built the systems, the mindset, and the infrastructure to keep growing faster, smarter, and stronger than ever before. What we're witnessing is not a temporary rise, but the unfolding of a long-awaited awakening. India has become a living example of what happens when a nation begins to believe in its own potential and turns that belief into action. This transformation begins with technology. India has become a digital-first economy, where innovation is no longer limited to the metros. From the remotest villages to the busiest cities, digital services have reached every corner. Access to high-speed internet, digital banking, online education, and e-governance has empowered millions who were once left out of the system. Startups are booming not just in Bengaluru or Mumbai, but in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, proving that ambition in India is no longer bound by geography. The country has become the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, with unicorns being created in fintech, health tech, agri-tech, and even space tech. This digital revolution is not just about apps and gadgets. It's about unlocking human potential at scale. On the economic front, India has defied global slowdowns and disruptions by focusing on self-reliance and sustainability. Initiatives like Make in India, Startup India, and Digital India have transformed how businesses operate and how people contribute to the economy. India is now manufacturing its own defense equipment, developing indigenous semiconductor programs, and exporting goods to countries that once supplied it. The government's focus on infrastructure, highways, smart cities, ports, railways, has made India a magnet for global investors. But unlike in the past, these investments are not just flowing into consumption. They are powering production, innovation, and long-term growth. What adds fuel to this transformation is the energy of India's youth. With a median age of around 29, India is one of the youngest countries in the world. These young minds are not waiting for handouts. They are building, coding, researching, creating, and solving. They are hungry for change, unafraid of failure, and deeply aware of their global relevance. In their hands, India is not just rising, it is evolving into a force of creativity, resilience, and leadership. Their contribution spans from cutting-edge technology to grassroots innovation, and their mindset is no longer limited to survival. It's focused on domination globally. Even in sectors like defense and space, where India was once considered a follower, it is now setting benchmarks. The country is producing state-of-the-art missile defense systems, developing AI-driven warfare tech, and leading international space missions. It is launching satellites for other nations and building alliances based on equal respect, not dependency. India's transformation is powered by vision, but sustained by execution. Policies are being turned into action, action into impact. This wave of growth is not artificial or externally driven. It is rooted deeply in the collective will of 1 billion people who are ready to lead the future. The global balance of power is undergoing a dramatic shift, and the rise of India is at the heart of this transformation. For decades, the West operated from a position of dominance. Economically, politically, culturally, and militarily. They wrote the rules, set the standards, and decided who would rise and who would fall. But in 2025, India has emerged not as a follower of that world order, but as a challenger to it. The shift is not just visible, it is shaking the very foundations of how power has traditionally worked. And that is why the West is terrified. They are not used to being questioned, and certainly not by a country they once ruled, underestimated, or patronized. India is no longer asking for approval or waiting for inclusion. It is asserting its own path, its own voice, and its own values. The world is seeing an India that is confident in its identity, unapologetic in its decisions, and strategic in its alliances. Whether it's rejecting one-sided trade deals, negotiating military partnerships on equal terms, or voting independently in global forums, India is signaling that it will no longer be manipulated by pressure or narrative. This shift in behavior represents a break from the past. Control, after all, was never about chains. It was about influence. But that influence is slipping fast. India's ascent in technology, defense, and diplomacy is happening at a pace that was once thought impossible.